Josh Nodorf here, Castle Real Estate Team, Coldwell Banker. Let's talk about appraisals. Now, there's a lot that goes into this. This video won't be as long as the due diligence video, and I'm gonna do my best to keep it generalized, but there's a couple of things you need to know. So one, a lot of you, like me, are military, retired military, and you're gonna be going through the VA appraisal process. I'm gonna try to make this generic so both VA and non-VA buyers can just watch the same video. For you VA buyers, the one thing you need to remember that appraiser's just like any other appraiser. He's going out to do the appraisal to look to see the value of the property. The bank wants to make sure they're not loaning you a whole bunch of money to buy a house that's a lemon. So the appraiser is going to protect the bank and making sure the home is worth what you're actually purchasing it for. And then if you're a VA, if you're using a VA loan, that appraiser is also going to be VA certified to look for any health or safety defects that need to be addressed prior to the purchase of the property. Now, why is this important to you? Well, a couple of reasons. One, it not only protects the bank, it protects you. So let's say we purchase a house, $300,000, and you're gonna put 10% down, so you're putting $30,000 down. The appraiser goes out, he says, hey, this house is worth $295,000. Well, the bank's gonna say, we'll only loan you up to $295,000. Well, we know you're already putting $30,000 down, so you're at $270,000, so you don't even have to worry about it. Now, you might go to the seller. We could go to the seller and say, hey, it didn't appraise for $300,000. Would you consider lowering the price and try to renegotiate it? But the bank's not gonna tell you you can't buy the house because they're loaning you less than the appraised amount. Where it gets tricky is if you're a first-time home buyer using a first-time home buyer program where you have zero down, or if you're one of the veterans like me and you're buying VA zero down, there's a little bit less wiggle room. So let's go through that same scenario, but you're now a VA buyer putting zero down. You make an offer to purchase a house for $300,000. The appraiser goes out, says this property's only worth $295,000. The bank says, hey, VA buyer, we'll loan you up to $295,000 to buy this house. Well, now you got a couple of options. One, you can write a check for $5,000 to the seller, and then at closing, basically, then you only owe $295,000 and the bank covers the rest. We could go to the seller and try to renegotiate, but I want to remind you, the seller is not required, even if it appraises for less than the purchase price. They are not required. The contract was the agreement between you and the seller for a set price. The appraisal is just telling you and the bank what they think the house is actually worth. And so we really want to make sure that we're being smart about how we make our offers, knowing that if it appraises less than the purchase price, we either need to renegotiate or you need to come up with a difference cash at closing to be able to cover those. Now, the second part of that, this will only apply to VA buyers. If you're not a VA buyer, you could probably stop the video now. He's also or she's also going to be looking for safety issues. A couple of common things I see: deterioration, door rotting around door jambs where it meets the ground outside. That door between the garage and the backyard seems like there's always a little bit of rotting. I've seen stairs missing in the garage on new construction. So they built the house, the garage is lower than the house, so there's 2 or 3 steps and they just haven't put them in yet. Well, that's a safety hazard. You come out out of the dining room into the garage, there's no steps. You can't buy that house. The VA will say that has to be repaired. I saw a house recently that had a piece of siding that was hanging off and they're like, hey, that needs to be fixed because there could be water intrusion. I had a house that had a broken window. It was a double pane window. The window was cracked. It wasn't shattered, but it had a crack in it. And the VA appraiser said that has to get fixed. And it's important to understand, if the VA appraiser notes a deficiency on the appraisal, that has to be repaired prior to closing. Sometimes with other repairs, the seller can give you money or they can pay for it to be done after. But the VA appraiser notes deficiencies that are safety, health related. They have to be done prior. And generally, we're going to want the seller to pay for those because the last thing I want is you to pay for repairs on a house you don't own. So we'll go to the sellers, but again, they're not required to make those repairs. We're negotiating. We're saying, look, this is what the VA said. Will you please make those repairs? If the seller doesn't agree to make the repairs, you're kind of in a sticky situation, and we'll talk about that more in detail. But just know any of those repairs the VA appraiser calls out have to be done prior to you purchasing the house. Well, that's everything you need to know about appraisals and VA appraisals. Have a great day.